Single dad heard the gunshots echo through the warehouse. He saw the little girl frozen in terror. Without thinking, he ran forward and pulled her behind him. "Stay behind me," he shouted as armed men closed in. For bullets tore through his body, but he never moved. He kept her safe. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The morning had started like any other Tuesday in the small town of Riverside. John Mitchell, a single father of 7-year-old Emma, had woken up at 5:30 in the morning to pack his daughter's lunch. The kitchen was small, with faded yellow walls and a refrigerator that hummed too loudly, but it was home. It was all he could afford after his wife Sarah had passed away 3 years ago from cancer. John worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. During the day, he was a mechanic at Tony's auto repair shop, and at night, he drove for a rideshare company. His hands were always covered in grease or gripping a steering wheel, but he never complained. Emma was his world, his reason for breathing, his purpose for living. "Daddy, can we go to the park after school?" Emma asked that morning, her bright blue eyes shining with hope as she ate her cereal. John smiled, even though exhaustion pulled at every muscle in his body. "Maybe on Saturday, princess. Daddy has to work tonight." Emma's face fell slightly, but she nodded. She was used to this. She was used to her father being tired, used to eating dinner alone sometimes, used to doing her homework at the auto shop while her father fixed cars. But she never complained either. She understood, in the way children sometimes do, that her father was doing everything he could. That afternoon, John was under the hood of an old pickup truck when his phone rang. It was Emma's school. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Principal Harris. Emma is fine, but we need you to come pick her up. She got into a small incident with another student." John's heart jumped. "Is she hurt?" No. But we need to discuss what happened." 20 minutes later, John arrived at Riverside Elementary, his work clothes still covered in grease. In the principal's office, Emma sat on a chair, her eyes red from crying. Next to her sat another girl, around 10 years old, with brown hair and a defiant expression. Standing beside that girl was a woman in a sharp black suit, her posture rigid and professional. "Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming," Principal Harris said. "Emma pushed Lily here during recess." "I didn't mean to." Emma burst out. "She was being mean to the new kid, Tommy. She was calling him names and saying his clothes were ugly. I told her to stop, but she wouldn't, so I pushed her." The woman in the suit spoke, her voice cold and measured. "My daughter doesn't lie, Mr. Mitchell. Perhaps you should teach yours better manners." John felt anger rise in his chest, but he swallowed it. He knelt down in front of Emma. "Sweetheart, pushing is never okay. But standing up for someone being bullied? That took courage. We'll talk about better ways to handle this, okay?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. The woman scoffed. "Typical. Excusing bad behavior." John stood up slowly, meeting her gaze. "Ma'am, with all due respect, maybe if your daughter learned kindness instead of cruelty, we wouldn't be here." The woman's eyes narrowed. "Do you know who I am?" "I don't care who you are," John said quietly. "I care that my daughter was defending someone who couldn't defend themselves." Principal Harris intervened quickly. "Both girls will have detention for the rest of the week. Let's leave it at that." As they left, Emma whispered, "I'm sorry, Daddy." John squeezed her hand. "Never apologize for having a good heart, Princess." He didn't think about that woman again. He had too many other things to worry about: bills, groceries, Emma's upcoming school trip that he couldn't afford. Life moved forward in its relentless way. 2 weeks later, everything changed. It was a Friday evening. John had just finished his shift at the auto shop and was about to start driving for his rideshare job when his phone buzzed. A request. He accepted it and drove to the address, a nice neighborhood on the east side of town. The passenger who got in was the same woman from the school. She didn't recognize him at first. "Take me to the federal building downtown," she said curtly, typing on her phone. John glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You got it." They drove in silence for a few minutes before she looked up and their eyes met in the mirror. Recognition flickered across her face. "You're that man from the school. The mechanic." "That's right," John said evenly. She was silent for a moment. "I'm Agent Rebecca Torres. I work for the Federal Investigation Bureau. I was harsh that day. My daughter has been having a hard time since her father and I divorced. She's been acting out." John softened slightly. "Kids go through things. My daughter lost her mother." "I understand." Rebecca nodded slowly. "I saw your daughter at the school last week. She was helping Lily with her math homework. Lily told me she apologized for being mean." "Emma has a big heart," John said quietly. "She gets that from you, I think," Rebecca said, and for the first time, she smiled. They talked during the rest of the ride. Rebecca explained she was working on a major case involving a dangerous criminal organization that had been trafficking weapons and drugs through Riverside. The leader, a man named Viktor Kozlov, was ruthless. Rebecca had been investigating him for 2 years. "We're close to bringing him down," she said as they pulled up to the federal building. "Very close." "Be careful," John said. "Men like that don't go down easy." Rebecca looked at him seriously. "No, they don't." She paid the fare and added a generous tip. "Thank you for the ride. And thank you for raising a good daughter." John drove away feeling strange, like something had shifted in his world, though he couldn't explain what. 3 days later, on a Monday afternoon, John was picking Emma up from school when he saw Rebecca's car parked across the street. Rebecca was inside, watching the school, her face tense. John walked over and tapped on her window. She rolled it down. "John. Everything okay?" Rebecca hesitated. "I shouldn't tell you this, but Kozlov knows I'm close to exposing him. There have been threats. I'm keeping an eye on Lily, just in case." John's stomach tightened. "You think he'd go after your daughter?" "Men like Kozlov use family as leverage," Rebecca said grimly. "I've moved her to a safe house, but I'm being cautious. If you need anything." "I'll be fine," Rebecca said, but her voice lacked conviction. That night, John couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Rebecca's words, about the fear in her eyes. He thought about Lily, about Emma, about how fragile safety really was. The next morning, everything fell apart. John was at the auto shop when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello. Mr. Mitchell, this is Agent Torres. I need your help." Rebecca's voice was strained, urgent. "Kozlov's men found Lily's safe house. We had to evacuate. I'm bringing her to the old warehouse district on 5th Street. I know you know the area, you mentioned you grew up there. I need a safe place to hide her until backup arrives." John's heart pounded. "Where's Emma?" "Emma's safe at school. I need you to meet me at the warehouse in 20 minutes. Please, John. I don't know who else I can trust. I'm on my way." John told his boss there was an emergency and drove toward the warehouse district. The area was abandoned, full of old factories and storage buildings that had been empty for years. As he pulled up to the address Rebecca had given him, he saw her car parked outside, the door open. "Rebecca," he called out as he stepped into the dim warehouse. "In here." Her voice came from deeper inside. John walked forward, his footsteps echoing. The warehouse was massive, filled with old machinery and crates. As he turned a corner, he saw Rebecca standing with Lily. The girl looked terrified, clutching her mother's hand. "Thank God," Rebecca said. "We need to." The sound of car doors slamming outside cut her off. Rebecca's face went pale. "They followed us," she whispered. Voices echoed from the entrance. Heavy footsteps. Men speaking in Russian. Rebecca pulled out her gun, her hands shaking. "There's a back exit. We need to go. Now." They ran through the warehouse, Lily sobbing quietly. But as they reached the back door, it burst open. 3 men stood there, all armed. Rebecca spun around, but more men were coming from behind. They were trapped. The men closed in, forming a circle around them. Then one man stepped forward. He was tall, with cold gray eyes and a scar running down his left cheek. Victor Kozlov. "Agent Torres," he said in accented English. "You've been very troublesome." Rebecca raised her gun, but Kozlov's men had theirs pointed at her, at Lily, at John. "Let the child go," Rebecca said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "This is between you and me." Kozlov laughed. "In my world, Agent Torres, there is no between. There is only leverage. You have cost me millions. You've destroyed my operations. Now you will pay." "Please," Rebecca whispered. "She's just a child. So were the children who suffered because of the drugs you destroyed. So were the children who lost parents because of the weapons you confiscated. Your righteousness has consequences, Agent." He nodded to his men. "Take the girl." "No." Rebecca screamed. Everything happened at once. 2 of Kozlov's men moved toward Lily. Rebecca fired, hitting one in the shoulder. Gunfire erupted. John didn't think. He ran forward, grabbing Lily and pulling her behind him as Rebecca ducked behind a crate. "Stay behind me!" John shouted at Lily, shielding her with his body. Bullets flew. John felt a sharp, burning pain explode in his shoulder. Then another in his side. He gasped but didn't move. He kept his body between Lily and the gunfire. "Stay behind me," he shouted again, even as his vision blurred. Rebecca was firing back, dropping 2 more of Kozlov's men. Police sirens wailed in the distance, backup was coming. Kozlov cursed and ordered his remaining men to retreat. Another bullet hit John in the leg. Then one in his chest. He collapsed to his knees, but his arms stayed wrapped around Lily, protecting her. "No matter what happens," he gasped, blood on his lips, "you stay behind me." Rebecca shot Kozlov in the arm, and he stumbled back, screaming orders. His men grabbed him and dragged him toward the exit as police cars screeched to a halt outside. John fell forward, and Lily scrambled out from behind him, screaming. Rebecca rushed over, dropping to her knees beside him. "John! No, no, no. Stay with me." Blood pooled beneath him. 4 bullets. Shoulder, side, leg, chest. The world was going dark. "Emma," he whispered. Tell her Daddy loves her. Tell her. I'll always protect her. You're not going to die." Rebecca sobbed, pressing her hands against his wounds. "Medic. I need a medic." Police and paramedics rushed in. They lifted John onto a stretcher, working frantically. Rebecca held Lily, who was crying uncontrollably, unhurt but traumatized. "He saved her," Rebecca kept saying. "He saved my daughter." At the hospital, John was rushed into surgery. The doctors worked for 6 hours. Rebecca waited in the hallway, covered in his blood, refusing to leave. Lily sat beside her, silent and numb. Finally, a surgeon emerged. "He's alive." "Barely. The next 24 hours are critical." Rebecca closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Emma arrived an hour later, brought by a police officer. When she saw Rebecca covered in blood, she screamed. "Where's my daddy? Where is he?" Rebecca knelt down, taking Emma's hands. Your daddy is the bravest man I've ever met. He's hurt, but he's fighting. He's fighting so hard. What happened? Emma sobbed. He protected my daughter, Rebecca said, her voice breaking. He took bullets meant for her. He saved her life. Emma collapsed into Rebecca's arms, crying. Rebecca held her, this little girl who had lost so much already, and prayed to any god listening that John would survive. The hours crawled by. Emma sat beside John's hospital bed, holding his hand. His face was pale, his breathing assisted by machines. Rebecca sat on the other side, Lily in her lap. I'm sorry, Rebecca whispered to John's unconscious form. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have been there. This is my fault. No, Emma said quietly. Daddy always protects people. That's who he is. Rebecca looked at this brave little girl and felt her heart break. 2 days passed. John remained unconscious. The town of Riverside learned what had happened. The mechanic who worked 2 jobs, the single father who drove for rideshare companies to make ends meet, had taken 4 bullets to save a federal agent's daughter. People came to the hospital. John's co-workers from the auto shop. Parents from Emma's school. Teachers. Even strangers who had heard the story. They brought flowers, cards, prayers. Tony, John's boss, set up a fund to help with medical bills. Within a week, the community had raised $50,000. Your father is a hero, people told Emma. But Emma just wanted her daddy to wake up. On the 3rd day, John's eyes opened. The first thing he saw was Emma's face, tear-stained and exhausted. Daddy, she whispered. Princess, he croaked, his voice barely audible. Emma burst into tears, clutching his hand. You're okay. You're okay. John looked around the room. Rebecca stood in a corner, Lily beside her. When their eyes met, Rebecca walked over. You saved my daughter's life, she said, tears in her eyes. You almost died saving her. John managed a weak smile. Had to. She's just a kid. So is Emma, Rebecca said softly. And she almost lost her father. Because of me. Not because of you, John whispered. Because evil exists. You fight it. That's what matters. Rebecca took his hand. Viktor Kozlov is in custody. The entire operation has been dismantled. It's over. John nodded, exhausted. Over the next weeks, John recovered slowly. The bullets had done serious damage, but he was alive. Physical therapy was painful, but Emma sat with him through every session, encouraging him. Rebecca visited every day. She and Emma had grown close. Lily and Emma had become friends too, bonded by trauma and gratitude. I want to do something for you, Rebecca said one afternoon. The fund the town raised covers your medical bills, but I want to help more. I've spoken to my superiors. The Bureau wants to give you a civilian commendation. And I've set up a trust fund for Emma's education. Full ride to any college she wants. John's eyes widened. Rebecca, you don't have to. Yes, I do, she said firmly. You gave everything to protect my daughter. This is the least I can do. The reward, John said quietly, is seeing Lily safe. That's enough. But Rebecca insisted. 3 months later, John was able to walk again, though he moved slowly and couldn't return to his physical job at the auto shop. Tony offered him a position managing the shop instead, with better pay and regular hours. For the first time in years, John didn't have to work 2 jobs. He could be home when Emma got back from school. He could help her with homework. He could take her to the park on weekends. Things are different now, Emma said one Saturday as they sat on a park bench, watching kids play. Better different? John asked. Emma looked at him, her blue eyes serious. Scary different. I almost lost you, Daddy. John pulled her close. But you didn't. I'm right here. You told that girl to stay behind you, Emma said quietly. You protected her even though you didn't know her. Why? John thought carefully. Because that's what good people do, Princess. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Your mom taught me that. She was a nurse, remember? She spent her life helping people. When she got sick, I promised her I'd raise you to be kind, to be brave, to stand up for others. That's what you did when you defended Tommy. That's what I did when I protected Lily. But you almost died, Emma whispered. But I didn't, John said. And now Lily is safe. Rebecca stopped bad people. Good one. Emma nodded slowly. Miss Rebecca is nice now. John smiled. People can change. Sometimes it takes something big to show them what matters. At the commendation ceremony, John stood in his best suit, the only suit he owned, bought for his wedding years ago. Emma stood beside him, wearing a new dress Rebecca had bought her. The mayor presented John with a medal for civilian bravery. John Mitchell represents the best of our community, the mayor said. In a moment of danger, he didn't hesitate. He put himself between evil and an innocent child. He took 4 bullets and survived. He is a true hero. The crowd applauded. John felt uncomfortable with the attention, but Emma squeezed his hand, pride shining in her eyes. Rebecca spoke next. I've worked in law enforcement for 15 years. I've met many brave people. But I've never met anyone like John Mitchell. He didn't have training. He didn't have a gun. He just had courage and a good heart. My daughter is alive because of him. I will never be able to repay that debt. After the ceremony, Rebecca pulled John aside. I have something else for you. She handed him an envelope. Inside was a check for $100,000. John's eyes went wide. Rebecca, I can't accept this. It's not from me, she said. It's from the Bureau's Victim Assistance Program. Kozlov's organization had millions in assets. Those assets are being used to compensate victims and people who helped bring them down. You qualify. John stared at the check. This is life-changing. You changed my life, Rebecca said simply. You saved my daughter. Let us help you. With that money, John bought a small house with a yard where Emma could play. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs, fully paid. For the first time since Sarah's death, John felt like he could breathe. Emma flourished. She excelled in school. She joined the soccer team. She laughed more. The shadow that had hung over their lives, the constant worry about money, about tomorrow, had lifted. Rebecca and Lily became part of their family. Sunday dinners together became a tradition. The girls did homework together. Rebecca and John became close friends, bonded by trauma and mutual respect. One evening, as they watched the girls play in the yard, Rebecca said, I never thanked you properly. You've thanked me 100 times, John said. Not for saving Lily, Rebecca said. For reminding me what matters. I was so focused on my career, on the case, that I forgot to be present for my daughter. Almost losing her, seeing what you'd sacrifice for her, it changed me. I took a desk position. I'm home every night now. Lily and I are closer than we've ever been. John smiled. That's good. Kids need their parents. Emma needed you, Rebecca said. And you were there. Through everything, losing your wife, working 2 jobs, struggling, you never let her down. That's real strength. I just did what any parent would do, John said quietly. No, Rebecca said firmly. You did what a great parent would do. Most people would have broken under that pressure. You didn't. You stayed strong for her. John looked at Emma, chasing Lily around the yard, her laughter ringing through the air. She's my reason for everything. A year passed. Life continued its forward march. John managed the auto shop successfully. Emma entered middle school, confident and kind. She still defended kids who were bullied. She'd learned that from her father. One afternoon, Emma came home from school with a permission slip. "Daddy, there's a career day at school. Parents come talk about their jobs. Will you come? Please." John hesitated. "Princess, I'm just a mechanic. Some of these kids have parents who are doctors and lawyers." "You're a hero," Emma interrupted. "Everyone knows what you did. I want you to come. Please." John couldn't refuse her. On career day, he stood in front of Emma's class, feeling out of place. But when he looked at Emma's face, glowing with pride, he found his voice. "I'm not a doctor or a lawyer," he began. "I fix cars. But I learned something important in my life. Your job doesn't define your worth. Your actions do. Your choices do. When you see someone in trouble, you help. When you see injustice, you stand against it. When you see a child in danger, you protect them, no matter the cost." He told them about that day in the warehouse, keeping it age-appropriate. He talked about courage, about sacrifice, about standing up for what's right even when you're scared. "The truth is, I was terrified that day," he admitted. "But being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway." The children listened, captivated. When he finished, they applauded. One boy raised his hand. "Mr. Mitchell, would you do it again? Would you take those bullets again?" John looked at Emma, then at the class. "Without hesitation. Every time. Because that little girl deserved to live. Because her mother deserved to see her grow up. Because protecting the innocent is always worth it." After school, Emma hugged him tight. "You were amazing, Daddy. You're amazing, Princess," he said. "You're kind, brave, and strong. Everything I could hope for." "I learned from the best," Emma said. That night, as John tucked Emma into bed, she said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like you." John's throat tightened. "Princess, I want you to be better than me. I want you to have opportunities one never had. That's why I work hard. That's why I'll always protect you." "When you told Lily to stay behind you," Emma said, "you meant it. You really would have died for her." "Yes," John said simply. "That's love," Emma said. "Mom told me before she died that real love means putting others first. You did that." Tears filled John's eyes. "Your mom was right. And she loved you so much. I see her in you every day, her kindness, her courage." "I see her in you too, Daddy," Emma whispered. "In how you take care of me. In how you helped Miss Rebecca and Lily. Mom would be proud." John kissed her forehead. "Sleep now, Princess. Dream good dreams." As he left her room, John thought about the journey they'd been on. The pain of losing Sarah. The struggle to survive. The moment in that warehouse when he thought he'd never see Emma again. The recovery. The rebuilding. All of it had led to this moment, Emma safe, happy, loved. He walked to the window and looked out at the quiet street, at the home they now owned, at the life they'd built from ashes. His phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca, "Thank you for coming to career day. Lily said Emma wouldn't stop talking about it. You're an inspiration to those kids. To all of us." John smiled and typed back, "Just trying to raise good humans. Like you." Rebecca replied, "You're doing more than that. You're showing them what real heroism looks like. Not the Hollywood version. The everyday version. The single dad working 2 jobs. The mechanic who risks everything for someone else's child. That's the heroism the world needs." John set down his phone and walked to the shelf where he kept a photo of Sarah. She was smiling in the picture, vibrant and alive, taken a year before the cancer diagnosis. "I kept my promise," he whispered to the photo. "Emma is growing up kind and brave. Just like you wanted. And I'm still here for her. Always will be." He thought about those words he'd said in the warehouse, the words that had defined everything: "Stay behind me." It wasn't just about physical protection. It was about shielding Emma from despair after her mother died. It was about working 2 jobs so she could have a childhood. It was about showing her through his actions what love looked like. Stay behind me meant, I'll face the storms. I'll take the hits. I'll carry the weight so you don't have to. I'll stand between you and everything that wants to hurt you. Because you're my daughter. Because I love you. Because that's what parents do. 2 years later, on Emma's 13th birthday, the house was full of friends and laughter. Rebecca and Lily were there, of course. So were kids from school, neighbors, John's co-workers. As Emma blew out the candles on her cake, John watched from the kitchen doorway. She'd grown so much. She was confident, compassionate, determined. Rebecca came to stand beside him. "You did good, John." "We did good," he corrected. "You've been part of her life too. You and Lily both." "That day in the warehouse changed all of us," Rebecca said. "I was so focused on my job that I forgot what I was really fighting for. You reminded me. You almost died doing it, but you reminded me." "Evil exists," John said. "But good people exist too. People who stand up. People who protect. People who sacrifice. That's what defeats evil. Not guns or badges. Just good people refusing to look away." "Philosophical today," Rebecca teased. John smiled. "Emma's reading philosophy books now. Some of it's rubbing off." They watched Emma laugh with her friends, so full of life and joy. "She doesn't know how close she came to losing you that day," Rebecca said quietly. "She knows enough," John said. "She knows I'd do anything for her. That's all that matters." "And she'd do anything for others," Rebecca added. "Last week, Lily told me Emma stood up to some high school boys who were harassing a freshman girl. She didn't back down even though they were twice her size." John sighed. "That's my girl. Heart bigger than her brain sometimes." "Like father, like daughter," Rebecca said. That night, after everyone had left and Emma was in bed, John sat on the porch, looking at the stars. His body still ached sometimes, phantom pains from the bullets, but he was alive. He was here. He thought about that moment in the warehouse, the moment when he made the choice. There hadn't been time to think, really. His body had moved on instinct. But if he'd had time to think, he knew he would have made the same choice. Some things are worth dying for. Some people are worth protecting, no matter the cost. Emma appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. "Can't sleep?" John asked. She shook her head and came to sit beside him. "I was thinking about Mom." "Yeah. She would have been proud of you, Daddy. For what you did." "She would have been proud of you," John said. "For who you're becoming." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Anything, princess." "That day, when you told Lily to stay behind you, were you scared you'd never see me again?" John was quiet for a long moment. "Yes. Terrified. All I could think was that if I died, you'd be alone. And that thought was worse than the bullets." "Then why did you do it?" Emma asked, her voice small. John turned to look at her. "Because I raised you to stand up for others. How could I teach you that and then not do it myself when it mattered most? Besides, Lily needed someone. In that moment, I was the someone who was there." "But I needed you too," Emma whispered. "And I came back to you," John said gently. I fought to come back. Every day in that hospital, every painful step in physical therapy, I thought about you. You're my reason, Emma. You always have been. Emma leaned against him. I'm glad you didn't die, Daddy. Me too, Princess. Me too. They sat together under the stars, this father and daughter who had survived so much, who had built a life from struggle and sacrifice. Inside the house, on the refrigerator, hung a drawing Emma had made years ago, just after the incident. It showed a stick figure man with his arms spread wide, protecting a smaller stick figure behind him. Above it, in childish handwriting, my daddy, the hero. John had never taken it down. It reminded him of what mattered. Not the medal from the mayor. Not the money. Not the recognition. The little girl behind him. Safe. Loved. Growing into an amazing person. That was the reward. That was why he'd done it. That was why he'd do it again. Stay behind me wasn't just something he'd said once in a warehouse. It was his life's mission. His promise. His purpose. And as long as Emma needed him, as long as she was growing and learning and becoming, he would keep that promise. He would stand between her and the darkness. He would shield her from storms. He would take the hits so she didn't have to. Because that's what fathers do. What good fathers do. They stay strong when everything falls apart. They work impossible hours. They sacrifice comfort and sleep and their own dreams. They face down armed criminals if they have to. They put their children first. Always. And in doing so, they teach their children to be strong. To be kind. To protect others. To stand up for what's right. Emma would carry those lessons forward. She would protect others, just as her father had protected Lily. She would stand up to bullies, just as she'd always done. She would grow into a woman who made the world better. That was John's legacy. Not the 4 bullets he'd taken. Not the heroic moment in the warehouse. His legacy was sitting beside him right now, wrapped in a blanket, safe and loved and ready to face the world with courage and compassion. I love you, Princess, John whispered. I love you too, Daddy, Emma said. Forever and always. They sat together in the quiet night, this family of 2 who had been through hell and come out stronger. And somewhere in the stars, perhaps Sarah was watching, smiling, knowing that her husband had kept his promise. He had raised their daughter right. He had shown her what real strength looked like. What real love looked like. And he had taught her the most important lesson of all: when someone needs protection, when someone is in danger, when evil threatens the innocent, good people step forward. They don't hesitate. They don't look away. They step between the victim and the threat. They spread their arms wide. They take the hits. And they say the words that change everything. Stay behind me. 5 years passed like pages turning in a book. Emma was now 18, preparing for college. The trust fund Rebecca had set up ensured she could attend any university she wanted. She had chosen to study social work, wanting to help children who had lost parents, just like she had. The night before Emma left for college, John couldn't sleep. He walked into her room, now half-packed with boxes, and sat on her bed. Emma woke up and smiled at him. Nervous, Daddy. Terrified, John admitted. You've been my whole world for so long. Now you're leaving. Emma sat up and took his hand. You taught me everything I need to know. How to be strong. How to be kind. How to protect people who can't protect themselves. Your mom and I, we always dreamed of this day, John said, his voice thick with emotion. Seeing you grow up, go to college, become whoever you wanted to be. She's watching, Daddy. I know she is. And she's proud of both of us. John pulled Emma into a hug, holding her like he had when she was 7 years old, scared and grieving after Sarah's death. That day in the warehouse, Emma said softly, when you told Lily to stay behind you, you were really telling me something too. You were showing me that love means sacrifice. That protecting others is the highest calling. I'll carry that with me forever. You already do, John said. Every day, you make me proud. Every choice you make, every person you help, every stand you take against injustice. You're not staying behind me anymore, princess. You're walking beside me now. The next morning, as John helped Emma load boxes into Rebecca's car, Rebecca had insisted on driving them to the university. Lily ran up and hugged Emma tight. You're my hero, Lily said. Your dad saved my life, but you saved it too. You showed me what friendship means. What courage looks like. Rebecca approached John, her eyes misty. We'll take good care of her. I promise. I know you will, John said. As the car pulled away, Emma waved from the window. John stood in the driveway, watching until the car disappeared around the corner. He walked back inside the quiet house and looked at the drawing still hanging on the refrigerator. The stick figure man with arms spread wide, protecting the smaller figure behind him. But now, John realized, the drawing had a different meaning. Emma wasn't behind him anymore. She was standing on her own, ready to protect others, ready to be the one who said, "Stay behind me," when someone needed her. John had done his job. He had raised a warrior with a gentle heart. A protector with compassion. A hero without a cape. He sat down and wrote Emma a letter, something she would find later in her dorm room. Princess, the day you were born, I promised to protect you from everything. I worked 2 jobs. I took 4 bullets. I faced down evil. But the truth is, you protected me too. You gave me purpose when I lost your mother. You gave me strength when I wanted to give up. You gave me hope when everything seemed dark. You weren't just behind me. You were beside me all along. Now it's your turn to stand in front, to be the protector, to be the light in someone else's darkness. I love you forever. Stay strong, stay kind, and remember, the greatest power you have is your heart. Use it well. Daddy. John sealed the envelope and smiled. His job wasn't finished, a parent's job never truly ends, but a chapter had closed. And what a beautiful chapter it had been. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures. But tonight, John was at peace. He had kept his promise to Sarah. He had raised their daughter right. And somewhere, in that warehouse 5 years ago, when he said those 3 words, "Stay behind me," he had planted a seed that would grow for generations. Because Emma would teach her children the same lesson. And they would teach theirs. And on, the legacy would continue. The legacy of love. Of sacrifice. Of standing between evil and innocence. The legacy of a single dad who took 4 bullets and changed the world, one heart at a time.